The unknown threat. In the vast reaches of space, there were many unknown dangers lurking. Most of the galaxy's inhabitants had never even heard of them. For years, the people of Earth had been living in peace. They were not the most advanced race in the galaxy, but they had always found a way to survive. However, that peace was about to be shattered. It started with whispers. Strange signals were detected by distant scanners, but at first, no one could understand them. They were coming from the far side of the galaxy, beyond the borders of known space. Scientists and military leaders tried to dismiss it. After all, they had bigger problems to deal with, and no one had any idea who could be sending these signals or why. Then, one day, the first attack came. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. A massive fleet of alien ships, so large that it seemed to blot out the stars, arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. These ships were dark and intimidating, built for war, and they showed no sign of communication. They were here for one reason: to conquer. The people of Earth had never been faced with such a threat. Despite their best efforts to prepare, their technology was no match for the sheer size and power of the alien fleet. The aliens did not care about diplomacy or peace talks. Their ships arrived with weapons ready, and they began their assault on the outer colonies of humanity, taking them by surprise. The government scrambled to respond, but there was no way to stop the invaders. Earth's defenses were strong, but not strong enough to face such a powerful enemy. The military was outmatched, and panic began to spread across the planet. The attacks continued, and Earth's leaders were desperate. They called for help, but they had no idea who, if anyone, would come to their aid. The aliens showed no mercy. They wiped out entire colonies in the blink of an eye. Cities were destroyed. People fled in every direction, trying to escape the inevitable. It felt like Earth had no hope. The alien invaders had superior technology, and their weapons tore through human defenses like paper. There was no strategy that seemed to work, no way to fight back. As days turned into weeks, Earth's forces were pushed back further and further. The world's strongest nations united, but their combined strength was barely enough to slow the alien advance. The worst part was that no one knew who these invaders were or where they had come from. There were no answers, only destruction and fear. The aliens did not speak, and their ships never showed signs of weakness. It was as if they were unstoppable. The people of Earth had no choice but to fall back and regroup, but it seemed like they were running out of time. With each passing day, the alien fleet grew stronger. Earth's leaders convened, meeting in secret, trying to come up with a plan. It was clear that Earth would not survive on its own. The only hope left was that someone, anyone, would come to their rescue. And so, Earth sent out a desperate call for help, hoping that someone in the galaxy would hear it. But who could they turn to? Most alien races had seen humanity as nothing more than a fledgling species. Earth's wars had been small compared to the battles other races had fought, and its technology was still developing. Many believed humanity was too weak to be worth saving. In their desperation, Earth's leaders thought of one last possibility: the Deathworlders. The Deathworlders were a mysterious and feared group of aliens, known across the galaxy for their harsh and unforgiving planets. Their worlds were filled with dangers, monsters, toxic environments, and endless challenges that only the toughest creatures could survive. These aliens were strong, fierce, and relentless, capable of surviving the most deadly environments in the universe. Few dared to challenge them, and even fewer knew how they lived or what they truly wanted. Humanity had never crossed paths with the Deathworlders, but legends about them were whispered throughout the galaxy. Some said they were merciless conquerors, while others believed they lived by a strict code of honor. No one was sure, but one thing was clear: if the Deathworlders could be convinced to help, they would be humanity's best chance at survival. The call for help went out, but no one knew if the Deathworlders would answer. Would they see humanity as a worthy ally, or would they let the human race fall to the unknown enemy? The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and the clock was ticking. The alien fleet was advancing, and it seemed there was no way to stop them. As Earth waited for any sign of help, the aliens grew bolder. Their ships moved closer, destroying more colonies, and soon they would reach Earth itself. The world was on the brink of despair, but little did they know, a group of warriors was watching from the shadows, ready to step in when the time was right. The unknown threat had arrived, and Earth had no choice but to place its hope in the hands of the Deathworlders, the last hope for humanity's survival. Would they arrive in time, or would the alien invaders wipe out everything humanity had fought so hard to build? Humanity's hidden strength. Humanity had always been seen as weak in the eyes of the galaxy's more powerful species. They were small, young, and their planet was just one of many in a vast universe. But what others didn't know was that humans were survivors. They had faced countless challenges, from the early days of their civilization to the technological advancements that had brought them into the stars. They were clever, adaptable, and persistent. But most importantly, humans had an inner strength that no one truly understood. Before the alien invasion, Earth had been focused on exploring the universe, expanding their colonies, and learning from other civilizations. The governments of Earth had formed alliances with several peaceful species, and their military was strong, though not as powerful as many others. But the people of Earth had something that no one else had. It was in their nature, their will to fight, to never give up, no matter the odds. Over the years, Earth had faced dangers of its own, both from within and beyond. Natural disasters, wars, and even near-extinction events had tested the human spirit. But each time, humanity rose from the ashes, stronger and more determined. This was something that no one outside Earth had fully realized. Humanity's true strength was not in their weapons or technology, but in their resilience. But Earth's hidden strength lay not in its cities or armies. It lay in the most unlikely of places. In secret, humanity had been working on something far more powerful than anyone had ever imagined. A fleet of ships designed to withstand the harshest, deadliest environments in the universe. These ships were known as the Deathworlders fleet. The Deathworlders fleet had been created as a contingency plan, a last resort if Earth ever found itself in a position where survival depended on something beyond ordinary military power. These ships were not like the sleek, fast ships most races used. They were massive, built for durability and combat in environments so hostile that most life forms couldn't even dream of surviving. These were ships made for Deathworlds, planets so dangerous that only the toughest beings could survive. The fleet had been designed with a single purpose: to fight and win in the most brutal, unforgiving environments in the galaxy. The construction of the Deathworlders fleet was a closely guarded secret. Earth's leaders knew that humanity could not rely on conventional tactics when facing a threat like the one now descending upon them. The aliens had already proven that their technology and firepower were far superior. But Earth's fleet was different. It wasn't built for speed or elegance. It was built for survival, for endurance, and for the kind of brutal combat that the Deathworlders were known for. The ships themselves were massive. Their outer hulls were reinforced with layers of the strongest materials, many of which had been developed from rare metals found only in the most dangerous parts of the galaxy. Inside, the ships were equipped with advanced shielding and life support systems, capable of surviving the most extreme conditions. The crews that manned these ships were specially trained to endure hardships that no other human would ever have to face. The fleet's design was a response to humanity's greatest fear. What would happen if they ever encountered a true Deathworld? A place where every step could be a battle for survival, where every moment could be your last. Humanity knew that if such a place existed, they needed a fleet capable of not just surviving it, but conquering it. The Deathworlders fleet was also built for one other thing. It was built to endure. The ships were not just weapons of war, but tools of survival. They were meant to withstand the harshest climates, the most dangerous creatures, and the most devastating warfare imaginable. Each ship was an island of hope, capable of keeping humanity alive in the worst possible conditions. But for all its power, Earth's fleet was still a secret. The people of Earth did not know about it. Even the world's leaders only had limited knowledge of its full capabilities. But as the alien fleet drew closer, something began to change. The desperate calls for help reached all corners of the galaxy, but many felt there was no hope. Then came the decision to reveal the Deathworlders' fleet. It was time to face the truth. The only hope for Earth's survival lay within these hidden ships. The moment the fleet was launched, a strange sense of pride washed over humanity. It was not just a military response. It was a symbol of their strength, their will to survive. Each ship that left the Earth was a reminder of humanity's determination to protect what they had built, to fight for their future. As the fleet moved toward the front lines of the conflict, the people of Earth knew that they had one advantage that no alien race could ever take away from them: their relentless spirit. The alien fleet had arrived with unmatched firepower, and humanity had its back against the wall. But in the depths of space, humanity had a hidden weapon, something no one had ever anticipated. The Deathworlders' fleet was a force built not just for battle, but for survival in the worst conditions imaginable. Now, it was humanity's final chance, and the galaxy was about to see just what humanity could do when pushed to the edge of extinction. The call for help. The alien fleet's presence was like a shadow that loomed over Earth, growing larger and darker with every passing day. Cities were burning, families were fleeing, and the sky above Earth was filled with the haunting hum of warships that seemed to stretch endlessly across the stars. Humanity had been caught off guard, and its military forces, although capable, were not prepared for such an overwhelming and powerful invasion. The alien ships tore through Earth's defenses with ease, and as each day passed, it became more and more clear that Earth was outmatched. Earth's leaders met in secret, gathering in the highest levels of their underground bunkers, far from the eyes of the terrified public. Their voices were filled with urgency and despair. They had tried every tactic, every strategy they could think of, but none of them had worked. Earth's military had mobilized all their forces, but it was clear they couldn't stand up to the alien invasion. The alien fleet had the technology, the firepower, and the numbers to crush Earth's defense in a matter of days. It was only a matter of time before the Earth itself would fall. The governments of Earth knew that without help, their civilization was doomed. They had no allies who could arrive in time, and none of the peaceful species they had made friends with were strong enough to stop the invaders. Even Earth's own military might seem like a mere inconvenience to the alien force. In their desperation, the world's leaders made a choice. They would broadcast a message across the galaxy, a call for help, a cry for anyone who might be able to answer in their time of need. The call went out in every direction. It wasn't just sent to the known allies or the peaceful species that humanity had contacted over the years. This time, the message was broader, more desperate. It wasn't just a request for help. It was an invitation to come to the aid of a world on the brink of destruction. Every corner of the galaxy was asked to listen to Earth's plea, hoping that someone, anyone, might be able to answer. But who would come? Humanity was not the most respected race in the galaxy. Most saw them as weak, a young species still learning how to survive in the universe. The advanced races, those that had conquered many worlds and lived for millennia, would see Earth's call and dismiss it. The galaxy's rulers might pity the humans, but they had their own interests to protect. And why would they risk their lives for a species they considered insignificant? Yet there was one group that stood out, one group that had watched humanity for years. They were a race unlike any other, living on worlds so dangerous that only the toughest creatures could survive. These worlds were known as Deathworlds, planets filled with extreme dangers, from hostile creatures to toxic environments. The Deathworlders, the inhabitants of these planets, had mastered survival in the most hostile conditions. They were feared across the galaxy, not because they sought power, but because they were survivors, and there was no force strong enough to break them. The Deathworlders were known for their isolation. They didn't often interfere with the affairs of other races, preferring to remain in their dangerous worlds, untouched by the outside galaxy. But they were also known for their strange sense of honor and respect. They did not fight for glory, wealth, or control. They fought for survival, for strength, and for the code they lived by. They were warriors in the truest sense, and they were not interested in petty wars or easy victories. To them, a real fight was one where the odds were stacked against you, where survival was the only victory. So when Earth's call reached them, it was not answered immediately. At first, the Deathworlders had no reason to get involved. They had no ties to Earth, no obligations to help a race they considered weak. But they also knew the nature of true strength. They understood survival in a way no other race did. And in a strange twist of fate, they saw something in humanity that no one else did. A spark of strength, a potential for greatness, if only they could survive the threat that now loomed over them. The Deathworlders weren't quick to join the fight. They watched from afar, observing how the humans responded to the invasion. Would they give up? Would they cower in fear? Or would they fight, push back, and show the kind of resilience that only the toughest beings in the galaxy could understand? As Earth's situation grew more desperate, the Deathworlders began to take notice. They saw the human spirit, their refusal to give up, their unwavering will to survive despite overwhelming odds. The invaders might have thought Earth was weak, but the Deathworlders saw something different. They saw a race that, although young and small, was capable of great things. And so, after long deliberation, the Deathworlders made their decision. They would offer their help, but not out of pity or mercy. They would help because they recognized the potential in humanity, and because they understood that only the strongest survived. The message was sent, a message of hope. The Deathworlders were coming. Earth's leaders could hardly believe it when the response came. It was a cryptic, short message, but it was enough. The Deathworlders were coming to their aid. The fleet that humanity had built in secret was about to face its greatest challenge, and for the first time since the invasion began, Earth's leaders felt a glimmer of hope. But the Deathworlders were not like any other ally Earth had known. They didn't speak the same language, they didn't fight in the same way, and they didn't trust easily. There would be no promises, no guarantees. Earth would have to prove itself worthy of their help, and with the alien fleet already advancing, there was little time to waste. As Earth's leaders prepared for the arrival of the Deathworlders, they knew that this was their last chance. They had no idea what to expect, but one thing was certain. The fate of humanity rested in the hands of the warriors who had survived the deadliest worlds in the galaxy. Would the Deathworlders arrive in time to save Earth, or would the alien invaders prove too powerful for even the mightiest of warriors to defeat? The arrival of the Deathworlders. The galaxy had watched in silence as Earth's struggle against the alien invaders grew more desperate. Destruction and chaos reigned across the planet. The alien fleet, with its overwhelming firepower, advanced relentlessly. Every day, Earth's cities crumbled, and its population scattered in terror. But despite their overwhelming losses, humanity refused to surrender. They fought with everything they had, determined to protect their home from the invaders. In the midst of this chaos, an unexpected hope began to take shape. After the call for help had been sent across the galaxy, Earth's leaders anxiously waited for any sign of a response. The fate of their planet rested in the hands of others, those they had never met, and who had no obligation to help. The Deathworlders had never shown any interest in the affairs of other races, let alone in helping a species they viewed as young and weak. Yet they had seen the resilience in humanity, the refusal to give in, and that had stirred something within them. It had taken weeks for the message to reach the Deathworlders, but when they did reply, it was brief and chilling. The words were simple but full of meaning. "We are coming." There was no elaboration, no promise of a miracle, just a solemn declaration. The message left humanity with more questions than answers, but it was the first spark of hope in what seemed like an endless nightmare. As the Deathworlders' fleet moved toward Earth, there were no fanfares, no celebrations. Their ships arrived like a shadow, slowly and silently. The first sighting came when the dark silhouette of the lead ship appeared in the distance, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was enormous, so large that it blotted out the stars behind it. The shape of the ship was unlike the sleek, efficient designs of the alien invaders. It was brutal, rugged, and built for survival. The massive hull was covered with layers of reinforced armor, and it seemed to absorb the light around it, making it appear even more menacing. The ships that followed were equally intimidating. They came in a formation, moving slowly but with precision, like a pack of hunters converging on their prey. Each ship seemed to have been designed for one purpose: to endure. The Deathworlders didn't care about speed or elegance. They cared only about surviving the most hostile conditions and ensuring their enemies were defeated. Their ships were large, heavily armed, and capable of surviving anything the universe could throw at them. They were the perfect answer to the alien invasion. As the Deathworlder fleet approached, Earth's military command was filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Could these warriors truly help them? The Earth fleet, though strong, had been outmatched by the alien invaders. But these ships, these warriors, were different. They weren't afraid to face the impossible. The Deathworlders were here, and that was all that mattered. For the first time in weeks, humanity began to feel the slightest glimmer of hope. However, the arrival of the Deathworlders was not an easy thing to accept for everyone. Many in Earth's military command felt uneasy about their new allies. These were not like the peaceful species they had worked with in the past. The Deathworlders were known for their harsh ways and fierce independence. They had a reputation for being warriors first and foremost, and their methods were far from diplomatic. Earth's leaders were unsure how to trust them. Would they fight alongside humanity, or would they have their own agenda? Their help might come at a price, and Earth's leaders had no choice but to accept it. Despite the uncertainty, there was no time to waste. The alien invaders were closing in on Earth's last remaining defenses. Humanity's leaders, although unsure of what would come next, gave the Deathworlders their full support. The decision was made. They would fight side by side. The Deathworlders did not waste any time. Once their ships had landed on Earth's surface, they immediately began preparing for battle. The sheer size and power of their fleet made the human forces look like children playing with toys. The Deathworlders' warriors were tall, powerful beings, their armor heavy and worn from countless battles. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, massive, brutal tools designed to tear through even the toughest enemies. There was no ceremony, no speeches. The Deathworlders simply got to work. They began to coordinate with Earth's military, exchanging information, plans, and strategies. The Deathworlders' methods were foreign, their tactics aggressive and direct. But humanity needed their strength, and so they followed. They trusted the Deathworlders not because they understood them, but because they had no other choice. The alien fleet had already shown what it could do. There was no time to waste. And as the Deathworlders prepared for battle, Earth's forces began to regroup. They worked alongside their new allies, preparing for what would be the most brutal battle humanity had ever faced. The plan was set in motion, and the military leaders from both sides were ready to face the alien invaders head-on. The battle began, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. The Deathworlders led the charge, their ships moving at a terrifying speed, and their weapons unleashed with a brutal force that shook the very earth. They didn't hesitate. They fought with the fury of warriors who had survived the deadliest of worlds, and their strength was overwhelming. Humanity, though inexperienced in this type of warfare, fought alongside them, using their own advanced technology to support the Deathworlders. Together, the two forces made a formidable team. The aliens, caught off guard by the ferocity of their new enemies, struggled to keep up. The Deathworlders' ships tore through the alien lines, and their warriors stormed the ground, pushing forward with unstoppable determination. The battle raged across the skies, the ground, and even into space. Each side took losses, but it became clear the Deathworlders were changing the tide of war. And as the battle continued, humanity began to realize something they had never understood before: the true meaning of strength. The Deathworlders were not just powerful. They were relentless, fearless, and united. They did not fight for glory or conquest. They fought to survive, and in doing so, they inspired humanity to rise to the occasion, to fight with everything they had, to protect their home. The Deathworlders had arrived, and Earth's hope was reborn. The battle begins. The moment the Deathworlders' fleet joined the fight, it was as if the very fabric of the galaxy had shifted. Earth's forces, which had been on the verge of collapse, suddenly found new strength. The Deathworlders did not hesitate, did not falter. They were not here for glory or fame. They were here for one thing only: survival. And Earth's survival had now become their fight too. As the Deathworlders unleashed their weapons, the skies above Earth lit up with the fury of war. Massive bursts of energy erupted from their ships, tearing through the ranks of the alien fleet. The sheer power of their firepower was unlike anything the invaders had ever encountered. Humanity's forces, inspired by the unyielding might of their new allies, quickly adapted to the Deathworlders' aggressive tactics. They followed their lead, engaging the invaders with a newfound confidence. The alien fleet, which had once been so sure of its victory, now found itself under siege. The invaders had never expected to face such an unrelenting force. For years, they had conquered planet after planet with ease, but now they were up against something they hadn't prepared for, a force that didn't retreat, didn't cower. The Deathworlders fought with the rage and intensity of those who had lived through the most brutal conditions in the universe, and they'd brought that ferocity to the battlefield. Earth's soldiers, though still not as experienced, fought alongside them, their tactics bolstered by the relentless strength of their allies. On the ground, the Deathworlders moved with military precision. They were like a living wall, pushing forward through the alien ranks with a brutal efficiency that left no room for mercy. Their armor was designed for the most hostile environments in the galaxy, built to withstand attacks that would have obliterated any other soldier. They didn't flinch as the alien weapons fired on them. The Deathworlders moved like ghosts, using the terrain to their advantage, striking when and where the invaders least expected it. Human forces quickly learned how to fight alongside them. Earth's military, now reinvigorated by the presence of the Deathworlders, adapted their strategies to complement the raw power of their allies. The Deathworlders were relentless, and Earth's soldiers now knew that they could no longer fight with fear. They had to fight with the same fierce will to survive. For the first time in weeks, the aliens seemed to be on the back foot. Above, the battle raged on in space. The Deathworlders' ships tore through the alien fleet with terrifying ease. The invaders had underestimated humanity, but they had grossly underestimated the Deathworlders. Their ships were not designed for quick maneuvering or precision. They were built to take on the deadliest forces in the universe, and they had the firepower to match. The alien fleet, which had once held the upper hand, was now being slowly but surely pushed back. The atmosphere on Earth was a strange mixture of fear and hope. The sound of explosions shook the ground, while in the skies, the glow of battle illuminated the night. But despite the destruction around them, the people of Earth began to believe. They had never seen anything like the Deathworlders. These warriors were not just fighting to win. They were fighting because it was the only way to survive. They had no other option. And that kind of dedication was something humanity had never known in its military. It was raw, untamed, and it burned with an intensity that was both terrifying and inspiring. On the front lines, the ground forces clashed in a storm of bullets, laser beams, and explosive impacts. The Deathworlders fought with a savage grace, each movement designed to bring death to their enemies. Earth's soldiers followed their example, pushing forward with a force they never thought they had. The battle on the ground was chaos, a swirling mass of combat that seemed endless. But in the midst of it, there was a growing sense of unity between the two forces. The Deathworlders did not see themselves as saviors, but as equals to those they fought alongside. They respected humanity's spirit and saw potential in their struggle. They didn't give orders, but instead fought shoulder to shoulder with Earth's forces, teaching them the true meaning of war. In space, the fight was no less intense. The Deathworlder ships, massive and indestructible, launched wave after wave of attacks on the alien fleet. The energy blasts that emanated from their ships were so powerful that they sent shockwaves through the surrounding space. The invaders had never faced anything like this. Their ships, built for speed and precision, were no match for the brute force of the Deathworlder ships. Slowly but surely, the alien fleet began to fall apart, their lines breaking as they were torn apart by the relentless assault from the Deathworlders. But despite the Deathworlders' overwhelming strength, the battle was far from over. The aliens, desperate to maintain their hold on Earth, began to adapt. They sent reinforcements, new, more powerful ships that had been hidden in reserve. These ships were larger and more advanced, designed to turn the tide of battle. As the new reinforcements entered the fray, the Deathworlders found themselves facing a new challenge. But they were not deterred. They fought harder, pushing their ships and their warriors beyond the limits they had known before. On the ground, Earth's soldiers were learning fast. They saw the Deathworlders take hits that would have incapacitated any normal soldier, yet they pressed on without hesitation. The Earth soldiers, once unsure of their place in this war, now fought with the same unyielding drive. They moved like shadows, coordinated with the Deathworlders, learning their tactics, their ways of survival. As the battle raged on, something began to shift. The Deathworlders were more than just a military force. They were a symbol of what humanity could become. In their eyes, Earth's soldiers saw something they had never truly believed in themselves, strength that could overcome the impossible. And that strength was what they now carried into battle. For the first time in the war, the alien invaders began to falter. They had thought Earth was weak, but they had underestimated both humanity and the Deathworlders. The invaders were not prepared for the sheer willpower and unbreakable spirit that Earth's forces now exhibited, standing side by side with the Deathworlders. The tide of battle was turning. The aliens had come to conquer, but they had found an enemy unlike any they had faced before. A united front of humanity and the Deathworlders, fighting for their survival, fighting for their future. The battle had only just begun, but the outcome was no longer certain. A turning point. The battle had been raging for weeks now, the clash of civilizations shaking the very foundations of Earth. The Deathworlders had brought their relentless fury to the front lines, and humanity, with its newfound courage, had joined them in this fight. Yet despite their growing unity and the overwhelming power of the Deathworlders' fleet, the alien invaders were proving to be a formidable enemy. They had not been defeated yet. Earth was not safe, and the Deathworlders knew that victory was far from assured. The battle had reached a turning point. The alien fleet, though taking heavy losses, had begun adapting to the brutal tactics of their new enemies. They regrouped, bringing in reinforcements that arrived with terrifying speed. These new ships were unlike anything Earth or the Deathworlders had encountered so far. They were larger, faster, and more heavily armed. The invaders had not been entirely defeated. They were learning, evolving, and this new force was their response. The war had become even more intense, with new tactics being employed and the stakes growing higher. In the midst of this, the Deathworlders' fleet was not only facing the aliens' technological superiority, but also the very limits of its own design. Their ships were built to survive the most hostile environments, but the aliens' new weapons were starting to find cracks in their otherwise impenetrable armor. It wasn't just the Deathworlders who were feeling the heat. Earth's forces were also coming under a renewed assault. The alien ships moved with precision and calculated force, firing beams of concentrated energy that could obliterate entire battalions in seconds. Earth's soldiers, though brave, were being pushed to their breaking point. But in the darkest moments of the battle, When it seemed that all hope was lost, the Deathworlders revealed their greatest secret, a new weapon, one that had been kept hidden, even from their closest allies, was ready to be deployed. It was a weapon unlike any other, forged through years of research and preparation. It was not a weapon of pure firepower, like the ones the alien invaders used, but something far more dangerous. This weapon was designed to strike at the heart of the alien fleet, using their own technology against them. It was risky, it was dangerous, but it was humanity, and the Deathworlders' best shot at turning the tide. The weapon was hidden in the deepest, most secure parts of the Deathworlder ships. Its design was simple but ingenious, an energy device that would send out a shockwave through the alien fleet's command systems. It would disrupt their weapons and communication, rendering their most advanced technologies useless for a brief moment. This was the edge the Deathworlders had been waiting for, and with Earth's last forces standing alongside them, they prepared to make their move. The Deathworlders had not been quick to trust humanity. They respected Earth's resilience, but they also knew that humanity had its flaws. They weren't warriors like the Deathworlders, nor were they equipped to survive the harsh environments that had shaped these beings into some of the universe's most powerful survivors. But the time for hesitation had passed. The weapon would be deployed. This was the moment of truth. There was no turning back now. The strategy was simple but incredibly risky. Earth's fleet would draw the alien invaders in, using every weapon and trick at their disposal to keep the alien fleet occupied. Meanwhile, the Deathworlders' ships would move into position, ready to launch the device that could cripple the alien invaders. The plan was a gamble, one that would require perfect timing and coordination. Any misstep, any hesitation, could result in disaster. As Earth's forces engaged the enemy, the Deathworlders' ships began to slowly move into position. The tension was palpable. Earth's soldiers fought with everything they had, pushing back the alien fleet with the help of their brutal new allies. The air was thick with the sounds of explosions, laser fire, and the cries of battle. For a moment, it felt as though the entire world was holding its breath. Would the Deathworlders' weapon work? Would it be enough to finally turn the tide? With a final deafening roar, the Deathworlders activated the weapon. It was a pulse, a shockwave of energy so powerful that it rippled through the battlefield, reaching out to every corner of the alien fleet. For a split second, the entire enemy fleet seemed to freeze, their ships suddenly immobilized, their weapons offline. The alien invaders, so confident just moments before, were now struggling to regain control. The shockwave had done its job. It had crippled their systems, leaving them vulnerable. But the moment of victory was fleeting. The Deathworlders had prepared for this, but the alien invaders were not without their own tricks. As the alien fleet struggled to recover, a new threat emerged from the depths of space. A new fleet, even larger than the one that had been previously attacking Earth. These were the invaders' true command forces, their most powerful ships, built to withstand the kind of disruption that had crippled the rest of their fleet. The battle was not over. But now, for the first time, Earth and the Deathworlders had the advantage. The alien invaders had been wounded, and their grip on Earth was slipping. The Deathworlders, with their unmatched strength, would not allow this victory to go unseized. Earth, now more determined than ever, would fight alongside them to push back the invaders once and for all. It was a turning point. The weapon had given Earth and the Deathworlders the upper hand, but it was only the beginning. The war was far from over. There would be sacrifices, there would be losses, but with the alien fleet crippled, Earth's last hope now rested on a united front. Together, humanity and the Deathworlders would face the final push, the last battle to ensure their survival. Victory and a new beginning. The aftermath of the battle felt almost surreal. The air was thick with the lingering scent of destruction, the echoes of the conflict still ringing through the atmosphere. Across the skies, remnants of the alien fleet drifted like lifeless husks, their once proud ships reduced to smoldering wreckage. The ground, too, bore the scars of the battle. Cities, once vibrant and full of life, lay in ruins, their once towering buildings reduced to rubble. But amidst the chaos, a new sense of hope began to bloom. Humanity had faced an enemy that seemed unstoppable. The alien invaders had come from the depths of space, armed with technology and firepower far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. Yet, against all odds, Earth had fought back. The alien fleet had been crippled by the Deathworlders' weapon, and humanity, with the unyielding strength of their new allies, had driven them from their home. It was a hard-earned victory, one that had come at a tremendous cost. The battle had taken lives, many lives. Cities were lost, families torn apart, and the scars of war would remain for generations to come. But humanity had survived. They had proven that they were not the weak, helpless race others had thought them to be. They had stood strong, united with the Deathworlders, and together they had pushed back an invasion that should have been impossible to defeat. In the wake of the battle, Earth's leaders gathered in what remained of the war room, their faces marked by exhaustion, but also by something new, a shared sense of achievement. They had seen the Deathworlders as a potential ally, but never had they imagined the scale of what this alliance would bring. The Deathworlders were not just soldiers, they were warriors of an entirely different breed, with a code of survival that no other race could understand. They had fought alongside humanity not out of obligation, but because they saw something in the human spirit that spoke to them. It was a strength born from struggle, from adversity, from the fight to survive. Humanity had, at last, earned the respect of the Deathworlders. The warriors who had once viewed humans as fragile, young beings now saw them as equals. It wasn't just the strength of Earth's military or their advanced technology that had won the battle. It was the resilience, the refusal to give up, even in the face of annihilation, that had impressed the Deathworlders. They had watched humanity fight with everything they had, just as they themselves had fought for survival on their deadly worlds. And in doing so, the Deathworlders had begun to understand that there was more to strength than raw power. There was a strength that came from heart, from courage, from the will to protect what mattered. As the final remnants of the alien fleet were scattered into the depths of space, Earth's leaders turned to the Deathworlders, knowing that their alliance was no longer just one of necessity, it was one of mutual respect. The Deathworlders had not only helped Earth survive, they had helped humanity discover a side of itself it hadn't fully understood. In many ways, they had changed the course of human history. For the Deathworlders, this victory was not just a battle won. It was a reminder of the cost of survival. Their warriors had fought with ferocity, and many had fallen in the process. But despite the heavy toll, they had done what they had always done. They had survived. They had come to Earth not to conquer, but to ensure that humanity could face the future with the same strength and will to survive that they themselves had lived by for centuries. The immediate aftermath of the battle was one of recovery. Earth's governments and military forces began to work together with the Deathworlders to rebuild. The war had left Earth battered, but it had also united humanity in a way that had never been seen before. The bonds forged in the heat of battle between humans and Deathworlders were strong, and now, in the wake of victory, those bonds began to take on new meaning. The future, once uncertain and dark, now seemed filled with possibilities. The Deathworlders, having fulfilled their role in Earth's defense, did not linger long. They had not come to Earth for thanks or reward. They had come because the need was dire, and because they respected humanity's spirit. Their ships, silent and imposing, began to leave Earth's orbit, heading back to their own worlds. But as they departed, they left behind more than just a legacy of victory. They left behind a powerful lesson. Survival was not just about strength. It was about unity, resilience, and the will to keep fighting no matter the odds. As Earth looked to rebuild, it knew that it was no longer alone in the galaxy. The Deathworlders, though they would return to their homeworlds, had forged an unspoken bond with humanity. They had shown humanity that even the most dangerous and isolated civilizations could find common ground, and that together, even the greatest threats could be overcome. The message was clear. Earth had proven itself worthy of respect. The galaxy would no longer see humanity as a weak, insignificant race. They had fought and won, and in doing so, they had earned the admiration of the most formidable beings in the universe. But Earth's fight was not over. The scars of war would take time to heal, and the alien invaders might one day return. However, now Earth had the strength to face any challenge. They had allies, they had learned from their struggles, and they had a new understanding of what it meant to survive. The war was over, but a new chapter had begun. Humanity had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, standing side by side with the Deathworlders. And in the process, they had become something stronger, something more. The future was uncertain, but Earth was no longer afraid. They had proven to the galaxy, and to themselves, that they were no longer a weak, helpless species. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Earth had been saved, and in that victory, a new beginning was born.